set up book live streaming. So we're going to begin live streaming now and recording. Yay, and recording. So this is going to be so fun for those of you who are able to catch it on Facebook later. Share this with people who didn't get a chance to join us today, and know that community stories can constantly be found at the Durham communityengagement.org website. This is not the first or the last session. So if you're joining Community Stories for the first time, just know that there's a lovely archive of past community stories that you can find on that website. And there'll be more cool stuff where we always have panelists that are members of the community that can tell us a little bit about, or a lot about, what we're doing. And so today, it is no surprise that we are talking about our beloved Wheels Fun Park. Yay. And so with us, y'all should know that with us, we've got the equitable community engagement folks from Neighborhood Improvement Services. They are who organized this lovely series called Community Stories. To learn more about them, go onto the city's website, but also you can go directly to their work at durhamcommunityengagement.org. Sometimes we know the city's website can be a little interesting to handle. So we've got a portal that's set up just for this information. And of course, you can like their Facebook page at Durham Community Engagement. And yes, Benita, we are doing a Facebook live stream. So yes, you can go to the Facebook page for Durham Community Engagement and see the live stream there as well. We are streaming right now. It takes a little minute to get going. So just know, Facebook takes like 2 seconds to get it going. Glenda, thank you so much for saying the stories are always interesting. That's lovely. And Karina, taking your daughters to birthday parties at Wheels and watching them skate, that's a good memory. So for those of you who are just joining in, please tell us in the chat, comment in the chat, what is your favorite Wheels Fun Park memory? And, it's always nice to see what people's happy memories are at a time where there's so many tough things happening. We need all the joy, all the love, and all the fun we can muster at this time. And y'all, it's Friday, so let's pump up the joy. Let's pump up on the joy factor. Ooh, hot date in college at Will's Fun Park. That's not a bad little, memory. Okay. Is it okay for me to go to the next slide and introduce our speakers? Okay. So with us today to talk about Wheels Fun Park is LaVon Barnes, Maya Jackson, and DeWarren Langley. So Maya, if you do not mind waving your hand. So y'all, LaVon Barnes first, sorry. So LaVon Barnes, if you don't mind waving your hand, there you go. LaVon Barnes has been a healthful living teacher at the School for Creative Studies for 17 years. So y'all, LaVon has been committed to fun and our babies here in Durham for a very long time. And fun fact, one of my favorite facts about LaVon is that he is the last known person to DJ at Wheels Fun Park when it operated as a skate rink. He is currently the founder of Young Male Achievers. Let's give it up for LaVon.
What's up, people?
And also we have with us the lovely Maya Jackson. Maya is a mother, Durham native, and assistant director of community engagement at North Carolina Central University. Whoop, whoop, go Eagles. And is also a full spectrum doula for a community-based maternal health group called MAME Inc., MAAME. And she can tell you what MAME stands for when we get around to her, because we want to hear about that good stuff. And last but not least is DeWarren K. Langley. He grew up falling at Wheels Family Fun Park on a regular basis and is currently the executive director of the Charles Hamilton Houston Foundation. Let's give it up for all of our speakers. My name is Ideal Ortiz, and I'll be driving what I refer to as our online magical school bus for today's community story. And let's get into it. So here we have a little bit of history with Wheels Fun Park. You can see this is the Google map here and a picture of the front side. But if folks want to share a little bit about the history of Wheels Fun Park as they have experienced the fun park for themselves, I will turn it over to our guest speakers. Oh, I didn't mean to go that far.
Warren, you're the elder statesman around here. So
You have to unmute yourself.
Warren, you're the elder statesman.
Levon, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? No?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I said, I defer to you because you're the elder. You fell more
If
time.
someone else doesn't mind speaking, I don't know why I can't hear him.
Well, I can hear him. He was saying I was the elder statesman in the group, but Wills has been a family-owned, operated facility in Durham since 1972. And it started in 1977 as a roller skating center located in North Durham. And then in March of 1992, the business was relocated to its current location and one of the first family entertainment centers in the United States. And so today, Wills Family Fun Park offers the same family fun that it has since 1977, but the management teams of Wills for over 40 years of experience in the family entertainment industry, and the park has now since been sold to the city of Durham.
I remember going to the original Wills out in North Durham as a kid, and Wills has always been a multi-generational place for all families, all socioeconomic demographics. It was just always a very community space, not just a skate park. And so I remember having tons of birthday parties all the way out in North Durham. And then when they switched locations and moved over to East Durham, nothing had changed. It was still like the same family vibe and spirit. Wills was always that place where you were hoping during school, when you had school field trips, that they were going to schedule you to go to a Wills field trip, you know, for a fun day. It was always that place during summer camps that you were hoping that, you know, if there was an outdoor activity outside of camp, that it would be Wills. And it's been a space that I've attended as a kid, and my children have, you know, also. So I have more memories, but it's been around for so long. It's definitely a staple in Durham.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that there's a Durhamite that has not had some party at Wills, some seating accident at Wills, some type of something at Wills. You know, my history with Wills is more on the back end. You know, my relationship with Wills just became as a teacher. I would do like little skate wars within the school that I teach at. And we, you know, and Miss Becky, who owned it for the last 40 years, you know, was just very welcoming to, you know, to all people. You know, now they're old school in the sense of like, you had to have cash to get in. You know, just think about it. It was an all cash. It's an all cash facility with one ATM machine that was off to the side, but you couldn't. But you had to pay in cash. But the families that she would talk to me about, the generations of kids that became parents, that even became grandparents, they all have experienced the Wills Family Skate Fun Park experience. And I really miss it. I really do. I think the community misses it.
Big ups to their former owners for curating such a loving and safe space for everybody to enjoy. It's so obvious that even when injuries, as people in the chat have shared with us, took place, that people, you know, you're good if you get injured somewhere and you still love it.
A lot of DNA, Adil. Been a lot of DNA is on that skating ring floor. I'll tell you that right now.
Or either up against the wall, because I never knew how to stop. So it required me slamming to the wall to be able to stop. So it was slamming and grabbing at the same time.
Or the carpet burn on that carpet if you fell and skid across the
and those of you, that's the original carpet too, by the way.
Oh my gosh. Well, a lot of people, obviously we've been talking a lot about skating, but a lot of people also know this place as having other amenities like the fun park. So if folks can tell us a little bit about their experiences with these other features of the park that aren't necessarily roller skating.
Yeah, I think that was the exciting part when they moved locations, because it gave you more to do on the ground. So the little jump ball picture that y'all see, everybody loved that. But I think what the most exciting thing was the go-karts, because everybody thought that they was, NASCAR, Indy 500. And so before you would go skating, you had to decide, are we going to go do the go-kart first? Or are we going to go in? But we got to get all these things done before our parents can pick us up. So that was definitely, I think, like the added addition that everyone loved was also the outdoor space. I think they had also a batting area as well.
They had a batting cage out there, the putt. I think they even had like a pond, a little paddle boat.
Yep.
You wouldn't even think that place is as big as it is, how much acres, that they had. Funny story about those go-karts. Those go-karts would be available in the winter, spring, fall, summer. The only time that she shut that thing down if it rained. And it had to rain a little bit. Other than that, if somebody wanted to get on those go-karts and it's 20 below, she was gonna let it happen. That was one thing about Miss Becky. The park stayed open.
You're on mute.
You're on mute. You muted yourself.
I'm sorry. And so what I was going to say is that we heard a little bit about the amenities on there, but obviously the big draw was also skating. And I love that, as Lavon said, like she was really mindful about keeping this open as often and as much as she could. And some of the diversity that y'all talked about being present at Wheels is clearly on display here, with many different walks of life feeling comfortable coming here. So let's talk about that skating. Oh yeah, Angela says it was always packed, but not overcrowded. Loved it. Used to take my kids and Girl Scouts there for years. That's lovely.
Well, the first thing I see in this picture is I would have told Mom that she couldn't be on the skating rink with them shoes on. That was definitely number one. But and that skating rink is legendary. I don't know how many skaters have probably come through that skating rink. But the Warren probably could talk more about just actually skating. I didn't skate. I was more worried about my students trying to clip me. So
well, I didn't do a lot of skating. I did a lot of trying. Another thing that I recall is being in skates trying to go to the bathroom. That, and then when they would turn the lights off and put on the glitter ball. It's just so many great memories being there with friends and, trying to perfect the skating craft, even though it never quite seemed to work out for some of us. And then just looking at how easy for some folks that they were able to skate going forward, backwards, sideways, being able to dance. Whenever they turned on YMCA or other songs that require movement, being able to do those things in the skates. Those are some of the most fondest memories of being at the skate park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember my first big kid birthday party was at the old skate park, and I think it might have been on a Friday or Saturday. So you get all the experienced skaters, and you can tell who the experienced skaters are because they have the short black roller skates versus everybody else with the standard big boot brown ones. And I remember I was trying to get my get on and going, but I got caught in the midst of all of the tricks and antics. So one of the skaters picked me up when the ball had dropped, and you could see it was dark and disco, and I just felt like I was in space, like I was looking at all the stars. This person had to be 6 feet, and they just lifted me and they turned me around, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Is this what this is like? And I just remember I want to learn how to dance and skates because what they were doing was so cool. And you could also see the art and culture with it, because it was only a certain group of people that did it. But when they did it, the whole ring just kind of stopped to see what they were doing.
Yeah, it wasn't until the recent documentary that I watched with the Hayti Heritage Film Festival series, United Skates. That's a documentary about skate rinks, that I got to learn that different regions had their own skating styles. And I didn't realize that. So you must have been experiencing whatever we're doing out here in the South. So that's amazing.
So yeah,
and then of course there's the music. And so
yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to hear more about music and DJ
And
styles at Wheels.
believe me about this the music thing. So I got asked to DJ at Wheels. I want to say like 2018, sometime in 2018. You know, I was sending my kids. We would have these events there, like I said before. I told Miss Becky, you know, I could DJ. You know, I'm a DJ or whatever. So she said, give me a card. And I was like, all right, here's a card. And out of the blue, she called me one day. She was like, hey, I need a DJ for Friday night, Saturday night, and maybe Friday afternoons for birthday parties. I was like, all right, cool. So, you know, I'm ready. Man, they got it decked out in the booth. You just sit up high and you get the screens. You play a video, you play a song, and the video pops up on the screen. The crazy part about it was, you know, those old school JB skaters, you know, when they got there on Friday night at a certain time, they wasn't trying to hear current hits. They needed their own set. So I had a whole set just for them for like a good 15 minutes. But then the young kids be mad, like, what is this James Brown stuff? What is this? They want to hear the baby or whatever is hot at the moment. And I'm like, you got to understand, like, you know, there's times and place, but it was so crazy being in the DJ booth, just seeing, like, you know, the young kids trying to learn how to do the JB move. Some of the younger generation, like looking at them doing line dance stuff and like, oh, I want to learn that too. You just seeing generational impact in that one location. But yeah, I had to keep it rocking though. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, the history of skate rinks has been that they've played different music on segregated nights. So for Wheels Fun Park to be so integrated, multi-generational, and be so welcoming to different, like people have said, like it was always full without being overcrowded, and there were all walks of life together. You had to have a special set of skills as a DJ to be able to rock that out and blend the musical stylings to the taste of such a diverse audience. And that is its own talent, I'm sure. But I'm sure it also helps support the musical education of people who needed some exposure to class.
Well, that was the thing. Like that was definitely the most important thing, was bridging those generational songs. That, you know, the young folks had to understand, you know, that song that you like from Lil Baby to Baby, that beat came from a James Brown song. Or that beat came from a Earth, Wind and Fire song. So you had to give them culture, you know, and at the end of the day, a good DJ recognizes his audience and then tailors towards that. And then, you know, you got to slow it down, because when we would get hyped, it would be so hyped in there, I had to like do a slow skate, just because, you know, just to get the energy back down a little bit. And the other thing about the skaters with the music was they watched out for each other. There really wasn't a lot of dangerous skating out there. Maybe a few times I would have to say, hey, yo, y'all need to slow down, whatever. But the experienced skaters always looked out for the young skaters. It was never a situation where, you know, you had a whole bunch of like accidents outside of you causing yourself to get in an accident. But
yeah, the experienced skaters always looked out, especially like for the little kids. It was never a situation where you felt like you were going to be trampled or harmed in some type of way. The culture of that space was always like a safe space for kids and families.
The only thing I had to worry about was those daggone bouncy balls that they would have over there over by the food section. The kids would go ahead and buy the little small bouncy balls or some other type of apparatus, and of course, you know, like most kids, it falls on the floor into the skating rink, and so I tell people to watch out for that type of stuff. But you know, it truly was a special place where people's memories were made. Girlfriends, boyfriends, whoever you like was there. You had to dress fly. You know, you definitely wanted to have the skates that you're seeing in that photo. I don't know how many decades of feet have been in those skates, but I'm sure it's at least 30 or 40 years of wear and tear on some of those.
It sounds like a public health miracle that everyone made it out alive without
Right.
an amputation.
Right. Considering what we're in now.
Yes, excellent. Well, one of the things that we heard loud and clear from people about Wheels Fun Park is that there was always, always, always either a birthday party, a fundraiser, or a camp going on at Wheels Fun Park. So now we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about those things. So, you know, some folks have already claimed it in the chat. They said, listen, you can't call yourself a Durhamite unless you had a birthday party at Wheels Fun Park. And Maya already started kind of tiptoeing into that about how she had her first, what'd you call it, big kid birthday party.
Yeah. And I think it was literally because of the cookie cake. Like, I don't know what it was, you know, in the 90s, but cookie cakes were a thing, and they had a great cookie cake. So I was like, I want my birthday party here. But Wheels became one of those places where it'd be like every other year we would have a Wheels birthday party or a milestone type of birthday party. Because we were there like every other weekend, you know, so it got to the point where you need to have a birthday party here all the time if you're always here. And I just recall like Wheels being one of those places in Durham that my parents could drop us off and not have to worry about us being in a space of harm or worrying that something was going to happen to us there. They knew the time slot to drop us off, the time slot to pick us up. We need to come outside and wait for them or wait at the door. Cause I think they used to have like supervisors or team supervisors kind of watch us as we would wait for our rides. And it just became like a very special place. I think the last time we attended a birthday party was with my older kids. I think right before Wheels had shut down, and it was still like the same experience. And yeah, I love it. I hope that other kids get to experience that because it was a really good time.
And that was during a time where you didn't have to worry about fights and violence. Like it was just a good, wholesome environment where everybody came and was in good spirits, had a great time, connected with one another. You know, if you did have a little beef, the beef was handled by your skating technique. It wasn't about fighting or anything, any kind of physical altercation. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, community creates. You know, we need more of those community-centered environments where people can build relationships and build, you know, opportunities just to fellowship, have conversation, have fun. And I think those are some of the things that we miss now, not only in the pandemic, but also as Durham so rapidly changes.
Dorn, I'm glad you brought that up because this was also at the time where being in the malls was not necessarily a safe space for Black and brown youth because we were constantly being profiled. And so Wheels was one of those places where we didn't have to worry about a retail clerk questioning why we're here. You know, Miss Becky, the family, because I think all of her family members and stuff worked there. It was never a situation where the staff made us feel less than for being in a space.
I agree with you on that. I think one of the reasons why she hired me was that I was a DPS teacher and I could relate with the students. And I can say that there might have been one or two times where, you know, I had to stop playing music and set some folks straight real quick. Say, I know your teacher. At the end of that, right? But Miss Becky was always, I don't think I ever felt like there was any type of, well, you're this or you're that, separatism. I think because she pretty much knew your parent, that people just respected, you know, what she said. Now, she didn't play, she was a no nonsense, you know, Becky's a no nonsense individual. If you did not, you know, weren't safe or you were cutting up and you had to go home. And if you had to go home, just like, you know, like anything else, you didn't really want to go home because you was going to miss out. Something was going to happen. You know, that special person that you really wanted to skate with, now you just missed out on that opportunity or whatever the case may be. I think DeMar, you're right. We need more centers like Wheels throughout this county and the city. Our kids have lost that social aspect because of this right here.
Mhm.
And learning how to make new friends based on, similar hobbies and interests. And, whether some people came to Wheels, skated for 2 minutes and just hung out on the side and ate that pizza, ate them pickles. That was their thing. And then some people came to Wheels and they skated from the time they started to the end, right? But they all would intermingle and you would see the same kids every week.
Mm-hmm.
Same kids every week, same parents every week to pick them up, and so that is community. That's community. They didn't know me necessarily, but hey, they respected me enough to say, hey, if I say, do this for me or do that for me, can you help pick that up or can you watch that? They was cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need.
What a beautiful legacy of support for community. Let me
And I
get
just
back.
echo both of what you all were saying about community and being safe space for Black and brown kids, because as we showed many of these pictures, that's what we're seeing, being able to be in an environment where not only are you being supported and nurtured, but you're also being able to socialize, you're getting good exercise, you developing some reflexes, being able to dodge other people who are out there skating, you get to listen to good, clean music without a lot of vulgarity. So it was just so many different things that were cultivated in that space.
And it's so obvious, the care, the love, the consideration, the intergenerationalness of it, the multiracial aspect of it, the curation of the music. I love that. That's so beautiful.
So what's crazy is I got students in the room that are listening to this live, right? And I just asked them how many of them went to Wheels Skate Park or the camp, and I have like 30, I would say at least 25. So, and these are 8th graders, so think about that. And that includes Omi's kid, Adil. Taj is in here right now looking. So just think about that.
Yeah.
That's his birthday party we last attended was Taj's birthday party at Wheels.
Oh, excellent. And it looks like we've got DeWarren's family and their group up here.
Yeah, so we actually took our students, and this was right before the pandemic, because we are a college preparation and career exploration program. And they were saying, Mr. DeWarren, we don't do a lot of fun things. And I was thinking, what is something fun we could do? And the first thing that came to mind was Wheels. And so, many of them had gone there before a few times, and all of them were excited about going. And so we went and we just had a great morning of skating. I fell, so I of course took my skates off, but our boys had a great time just being in that environment, and it just brought back so many memories for me, and I was glad to be able to share that opportunity with the students that we work with.
Yeah. So we were talking about fundraisers, right? So that's, and Miss Becky was so fair when it came to programs and fundraising. I think that we were able to get 50% after a certain number of folks who attended at the gate. So we wound up splitting a lot of money because we had so many people come in and experience, or so many of our students that would come to Wheels on that. I think we used to do them on Friday nights. And she was just so awesome about that and was very fair. A lot of fun centers, they don't even do any type of fundraisers where you can split money. Let's think about that. She's probably,
yeah, we ain't gonna do that. We're gonna take a nice cut
right,
out of what you
right.
raised.
Definitely not 50%, but that was the good thing about Miss Becky. She was very, that whole staff. I gotta shout out Melissa. Somebody in the chat was asking about, oh, Miss Becky should be here. I did text Miss Becky, and I did text Melissa, someone who worked with her for a long time. But Melissa couldn't get on it, and Miss Becky didn't respond. But I know that she had such a strong relationship with Durham Public Schools. Wheels did, in providing. Think about how many camps that she had throughout the school year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking about 8 o'clock in the morning to almost like 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. I mean, that's a long time to be watching kids, and those kids would literally be there and do the fun center and then skate and all that every single day and eat that pizza. I don't know how many slices of pizza I ate. I don't know. I probably gained about 25 pounds eating all that food up in there all the time. But yeah, she was really good with that.
I'm curious if folks want to drop in the chat, or if any one of our speakers, did anyone, aside from Levon, who we know is the DJ, did anyone ever work there or have their young people work there? And was it their like first time job or a summer job? Maybe they worked a camp. We'd love to see that in the chat about who had children work there or worked there themselves, helped run a community event, or was a camp counselor at Wheels. That would be interesting to hear about. That's exciting. So feel free to share about that in the chat with us. And if you're joining us via Facebook Live, feel free to let us know, were you ever a Wheels Fun Park employee in some capacity? That would be really cool to hear about. So for now, we know that Wheels has been turned into a vaccine site when it transferred ownership. Hi, who is this? Hey, Taj. When it transferred ownership from Miss Becky over to the city, we were in the midst of a full-blown pandemic, as we still are. And so Wheels Fun Park continues to serve us well. And this time around, all that space where you would have been skating is now used for vaccine distribution for people. And so that is what is currently happening at Wheels, but we would love to know from you what you think should be going on at Wheels. And so feel free to drop in the chat what you think should be Wheels's future. What should Wheels's, how we could, this is the better way of putting it. What should the future of Wheels be to roll on? How do we roll forward? And has anybody, some people dropped in the chat that they've been to the Wheel site since it's been a vaccine site. So if anybody has had any experience with visiting the site in its current use, we'd love to hear about that. Maya or DeWarren or Levon, have y'all been to Wheels since it transferred ownership?
I have not.
Neither have I. The last time I was there was January of 2020 when we took our students.
That was the last time that I was there was for Taj's birthday party. So
yeah.
Last time I was there was literally, I remember her telling us that she had sold it. And it was that weekend, that last weekend at Wheels. I was there for that. And it was a surprise for everybody there when we made that announcement. But it was also during the pandemic, and actually Wheels was one of the only places during the kind of beginning when we were shutting things down in Durham. Funny side note, Mayor Shule at the time, he rolled up in Wheels. It was like, what's going on in here? So me, I was like, I said, we got it under control. We have limited capacity in here. But it was like one of the last things that were open during the pandemic before it was shut down. But yeah, I haven't been there since then.
Yeah, I've gone and hung out outside. There's an awning nearby that I was standing under for a community event that was talking a little bit about the future of Wheels. We did have a question in the Q&A about what the city plans. And so I did want to go ahead and answer that question. There are no decisions that have been made about Wheels one way or the other. So I just want to be clear about that. There's still a very open-ended kind of question about what to do with the property now that it's under city ownership, but we want to not start rumors. There has been no decision made, but that's in either direction. And I hope that answers the question that was previously in the Q&A box. But yes, tell us, if you see Laura's question in the chat, what's your dream for the future of Wheels? It's a multi-acre location. I think it's, what is it, Laura? I think about a little over 8 acres. It had lots of outdoor amenities. It wasn't just the skate rink. So what do you think the future of Wheels should be? We've got some
A
folks.
lot of a lot of things in the chat. They want to keep it. They want to keep Wheels as it is, and I agree with them. I think that closest skate park, indoor skating facility would be United Skates in Raleigh, and a lot of people were really disappointed because they love the feel of the Wheels better than United Skates. Love to see, if it was me, keep Wheels as is, but I would also like to see a multi-million-dollar facility for the rest of that that's open 24 hours as a rec community center that can have, indoor pool, whether it's going to be an indoor aquatic center that has a whole bunch of different types of things in there that our young folks can attend when they want to. I think a lot of times we shut things down too early, and when it's shut down too early, that's when things get restless, right? And we are to set the bar and give our kids opportunities to not just do sports, but just to do, if they're interested in drama, they're interested in cooking, interested in whatever culinary art, let's create the rest of the acreages into a multi-million-dollar facility that our kids, if they have a dream, they can go in there for that.
Yeah.
I really feel that. You can go ahead.
When I think about the future of Durham, with my organization, with Mama, we talk to families a lot about what families want, and particularly Black and Brown families. And the common theme is they don't feel like they have a space to call their own in Durham. And when people hear that, they're like, well, there's so many community centers and spaces here, but it's the people that's in the building that make the community. And when people don't see themselves or feel like they have a connection to the bodies that are in that space, then it creates that void and that gap. And I think that is what Miss Becky and her family were able to do almost over 40 years, is that we knew the family. So it was an extension of community. Like Levon said, if he saw, students, acting disorderly, he could say something and it was okay. Or they knew that Miss Becky would reach out to their parents when they got there, it would be okay. These institutions are missing here in Durham. And there's also something that I think Adele had talked about, was just like skate culture in United States. There is an existing skate culture here in Durham. So though we've created an outdoor skate space for skateboarding folks, which is now kind of in jeopardy due to gentrification, we've completely eradicated the spaces for indoor skaters. So there's so many voids and gap that is missing that we can have our cake and eat it too. There's more than enough property, like Levon said, on that land that we could create a multi-use plex without destroying the legacy and the familiarity of Wheels. So that way the next generation of skaters and families can participate. And it needs to be a staple of Durham because it's the heart of Durham. There are not too many existing spaces like this that exists. The overhead of it, it's pretty manageable because you're getting the same people, it's the same materials. A lot of people are bringing in their own skates. It's accessible for families. So I think we should be, all in favor and advocating for the space to be here, but also looking at what the future looks like for that area.
And I think with Durham's commitment to equity, I think we need to operationalize that and center the voice of our young people, because we certainly need spaces where there are developmental opportunities, career readiness, career exploration, college prep. All of those things are very important, especially considering that a lot of employers are saying we have job openings that require specific skills or knowledge, and oftentimes the folks in this community are unaware. And when we think about developmental opportunities for our young people, we're not centering their voices in the development of Durham. And here's a space that is impacted. I mean, just looking at the chat, the individuals on the panel, the different life experiences and the impact this facility, this family fun park, has had on so many individuals and family, we need to value that, we need to protect it, and we need to reinvest in it. And I think the best way of doing that is operationalizing our commitment to equity by centering the voices of young people. I know that when I was a young person, one of the things that I fought hard for was having the Durham Youth Commission, which is another conversation that we'll have. But all the time you would hear young people need this, young people need that, but absent from that conversation was the young people that were often the subject of the conversation. So here in Durham, we say that we value people's voices. We say that we value equity. We say that we take equitable approaches to engagement. Let's operationalize that and have some youth-centered conversations about what those needs are and how this developmental site could really serve that purpose. Because I think LaVon raised a great point that this is a lot of acreage. There's infrastructure there. We can capitalize on infusing some resources into making this a multi-dimensional place of learning and activity for our young people. And then to add a bus route out there would be an even greater opportunity for young folks to have access and opportunity.
I love all the stuff that y'all are raising. I got the wonderful privilege and blessing to be able to work with some of the city of Durham's Office on youth staff. That's a mouthful, but their youth staff and I, along with some other great partners, got to do some long-term research in the community countywide here in Durham to kind of ask young people about their experience as being residents of our community. And that's a group of people we don't normally tap into. It broke my heart to learn through the research how unwanted young people feel. They were talking about this weird juxtaposition of everyone acknowledges that downtown Durham is a lot safer now, but they don't feel welcome there. And I thought that was such a fascinating thing. And this location and all of the lovely stories and history y'all have shared with us today really raises up, as I think about that research and the contributions of those young people and what they said about their Durham experience, is that they don't know where to go, where they feel welcome and not kind of shushed out the door. And so it's like, and I hear the comments people make when young people try to gather for the cipher at the CCB Plaza, and how people are like, oh, that hip hop criminal element, we can't have that in downtown anymore. And so if you're always being targeted for messaging and perspectives that claim you are a delinquent, and there are precious few places where you are celebrated, where you are welcomed, where you are embraced, where you are wanted, and you can feel that in your city, there's no wonder that all the great young people we invest in and make into awesome people, right? We invest in them, we love up on them, and then they want to leave us because they want to go where they're going to be loved. And this was a place that clearly loved our young people, and we need to grow more of that.
Great
point. I think that's a great summation.
Great point right there about why they leave.
Yeah.
And how Wills was, they might have left, but they came back and told their stories about their memory at Wills, whether it was, mom to son or daughter, or grandparent to grandchild or whatever, or nephew, whatever, or even just a friend, somebody visiting in town, like, yo, we got to go hit Wills up, right? We're at a critical point in Durham. We had a critical point with our youth right now. If we don't address it, we're going to lose another generation, unfortunately, because these conversations, how important they are, a lot of times after we get off the Zoom, it's over. You're like, it was good for the moment, but then there's no action items after. How many meetings that we all attend and we're like, we just had to meet, but there's no action item, right? One of the things that I feel like the city should do is you have Durham Public Schools as the biggest source of youth opinions. I would have it make sure that they have something on there and say, what would you like to see? What would you want ultimately in a community center of this size, and have every student from kindergarten all the way up decide what they want. And then have that imprint on there so they could feel like, hey, you know what? I took this poll and I had made this, I put my opinion out there and they put this in there. So when you have buy-in like that, you want to protect that.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah, I
keep
love
that.
that. Well,
I
you
think that's
I
what
think that's a great idea, LaVon. We could ask the school system, they could put in a suggestion box in every school where every young person who has an idea about the school, about the community, they could freely share that input. And our policymakers could be exposed to that information so that they can operationalize the ideas of our young people so that we can get input. Because I think that's a great point that our schools every day touch the lives of our young people, and we need to make sure that they are vested in what happens in our community and their voices have to be present in the conversation.
I do want to lift up two different things. Laura has put in the chat the Office on Youth Listening Project, and that was a deep dive research with over a dozen focus groups of talking directly to young people and their caretakers in case the child was younger than school age, to hear back from them the variety of things that they need to make their city have for them to have a better experience as they reside in their city and county here in Durham. I do want to say that there were recommendations that were crafted out of that process. And she has linked the Youth Listening Project, that report that came out of that is listed on there. But there's been a lot of research done throughout Durham about ways in which we could support young people and support them in their dignity and their education and their wellness and wholeness. And there is a group of which DeWarren is a part of, and we're welcoming other people. So DeWarren and I are part of a group that we refer to ourselves as Protecting Our Dignity. And the thought is protecting the dignity of young people to have a dignified experience in Durham. And I'm going to go ahead and put the website in the chat. We're having conversations where we're asking people, what do we want to do in order? We've got all this research, we've got all this synthesis, we have some focus areas, but how do you manifest? How do you act and make alive these focus areas? So the protectingourdignity.org, you can go there, and our focus areas and how we want to ask our broader community, how do we manifest these focus areas for our most vulnerable youth here in Durham? How do we make that real? And so for those of you who are interested and y'all want to work on wheels, that could be a strategy possibly underneath one of those focus areas around what it would take to build a community that truly supports and celebrates and embraces our young people so that they can achieve at their highest potential.
I want you to say the website because I don't think on the TV.
Yeah, protectingourdignity.org, protectingourdignity.org. And for those of you on Facebook Live that want to know more about the Youth Listening Project, if you just type in Durham Youth Listening Project in your search engine, it will pull up the report, or at least the Office on Youth's website for the Youth Listening Project here in Durham. Just make sure you put in Durham Youth Listening Project. We've got some great kickoff meetings coming up in February, and we would love you to join, but I'm not going to steal the show. We're talking about wheels. But that could be an avenue through which we work on considering the future development of wheels, whatever the community chooses it should be.
Well, on the other side of wheels, right? They just broke ground maybe last year or the year before that, and that's going to be a huge soccer plex. That's right across there. I think the city owns that property on the opposite side, across the street from Wheels. I think the city owns that property now. Durham is a sports town. You know, we care about the sports here. A lot of people don't want to drive to Raleigh. A lot of people, you see Cary is now picking their game up when it comes to athletics. I love the fact that Durham's getting a Top Golf, but Top Golf is not for everybody. That's nice and all. However, it would be great to have for Durham, because we also have to think about the fiscal aspect of certain things sometimes. If Durham had its own volleyball, youth, AAU, and basketball, and many indoor soccer, how much money that will generate. And at the same time, our young people, if you're a Durham City resident or whatever the case may be, you automatically get free, free programming to be able to participate in sports. Because one thing we know about COVID too is that our young people have been forced to be inside, and they're not getting the exercise, and they're not burning that energy. It would be so cool to see something like some big AAU tournament that all about, our teams, our Durham teams could be participating in, how much revenue that would bring in for the city as well. I think it would cover the cost of it being open 24 hours. To me, that would be the thing. My thing is 24 hours, because everybody's wired different.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry, Levon, I didn't mean to cut you off. No. As a parent, I agree with Levon. I literally drive to other counties so that my kids can experience things that we don't have in Durham. And there are a lot of families who don't have that accessibility to do that. Mm-hmm. If I'm paying taxes in my city, there should be things that my kids should be able to have access to. And it's been, before COVID, this has been an issue, so the fact that we aren't being intentional with the planning to ensure that the resources and services are accessible for our youth is really problematic, because we're traveling far. Like Burlington, we went this past summer to Burlington because they had a really cool aquatic center, and we'll go to Raleigh for ice skating or their roller rink. These things should be right here in Durham. I shouldn't have to travel out to be able to do those things. So I hope that there are more conversations with families, and more so families that need accessibility support in regards to cost, to ensure that these are things that they can afford as well.
Yeah, they've started doing engagement about this. And I did go to some of those meetings, and I'm just going to say it, it's ugly truth, but they were very poorly attended. So if we want the conversation, we need to jump in. And also the process for the conversation should be well-known and attractive.
But I think part of what we have to also, as engaged community members, realize is that these are some very challenging times for a lot of people. And although, everybody's in a sense of we got to get back to normal, there are some people that are deep in struggle in this new reality of normal. And as conversations continue to happen, allocation of resources continue to happen, developments continue to be planned, I think if we really are an equitable community that values all folks, we really have to think about how we're engaging people and being intentional about that engagement, so that we're not, when we're talking about things happening in Durham, we're not intentionally or unintentionally leaving folks out of the process. Because it happens not because people don't want to be engaged, but when their basic needs are not being met, when they're trying to survive. I mean, I just saw a clip talking about students who are in public schools that are dealing with homelessness. And I couldn't imagine trying to focus on learning while also dealing with homelessness. So I think when we're talking about Wheels, when we're talking about development in Durham and just engagement, we have to be mindful of the reality that so many people are dealing with.
Yes, absolutely. If you have any remaining questions, feel free to drop those in the Q&A. And we want to thank our lovely speakers for coming on. Thank you so much, Maya, Levon, DeWarren. We want to give a thank you to the city staff that have supported this community story: Carolyn, Cheryl, Jenny, and Laura. And of course, we want to thank the city and the NIS leadership that approved these kinds of things so that we can understand a little bit more of our community. It's really hard to plan for a joyful, community-rooted city and county if you do not understand the community and know its history. So thank you to Constance, the director of NIS, James Davis, and Linwood Best for their leadership in greenlighting these kinds of engagements so that people can learn more about our city. See all of the community stories. The recordings are available on the City of Durham's YouTube, also the Durham Television Network on Saturdays and Sundays around 12. And then, of course, rerun highlights. You know, you can check out what we talked about regarding Bragtown. That's another juicy part of our community. The list of recordings so far, you can see them here at the bottom. And next up in February, our next community story will be Friday, also at lunchtime on February 25th. We're going to talk about the West End, y'all. Our community stories, we're going to focus on the West End. Go back to the Durham communityengagement.org website, and that is where you can register for the community stories focused on the West End.
And I would be remiss not to mention that our own Mayor Elaine O'Neill is from the West End.
Ah, that's a good point. And Linda asks, other than today, how is the local community informed and encouraged to get involved? Please, one of the great things is go on to the Durham Community Engagement site.org, durhamcommunityengagement.org. I'm going to give you two sites. That site, durhamcommunityengagement.org. The other one that you can go to is Engage Durham, I think it's .com. And there are several buttons there for existing things. Right now, we are still reviewing a comprehensive plan and thinking about land use at the current moment. We are about to, in a few months, debut engagement about the transit plan for the Durham community. And there are always a myriad of projects that you can go on to engagedurham.com to get more information on. They usually have the most current and hot projects as big buttons on the main page. And now I'm turning it back over to Laura, our lovely staff at NIS.
That's it. You did it all, Ideal. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. And yeah, that's all for today. See you next month.
Thank y'all.